welcome. We have a guest on today's episode,
Yeah.
Alyssa. I'm going to get it right. Gioscia. Yes, I got it right.
It's
Joshua.
Why do
Joshua.
I keep doing that?
Yeah, that's
Gioscia.
perfect.
I
Yeah.
like to show people my humanness in its very beautifully flawed way
Yeah.
off the bat, because then people know what to expect for the rest of the
I have known you for 100 years, Meredith, and I've yet to find any flaws. So
Oh, you're too kind.
Very nice.
let's just let that go this morning, okay? Just let it go. Welcome, Alyssa. Happy to have you here.
Thank you.
What's your
Likewise.
intention for our time together today?
Oh my gosh, to laugh with you both, which is already happening, and hopefully to share some insights with your audience that they can find helpful and start, applying to how they're living.
Beautiful.
Thank
Thank
you. Meredith, same question. What's your intention for our time together?
Oh, my intention is to have fun. I need some more fun in my life.
I love the way she says fun, like it's a
Fun.
bad word. I want fun.
It kind of is. As
It is a
adults,
little
I
bit.
don't think we have enough fun.
I don't think so. I think it is a little bit of a bad word
Mm.
for some people, but I'm going to take. I'm reclaiming the word fun, Joseph. How about you? What's your intention?
My intention is to tap into Alyssa's brilliance because I know there's a lot of it, or even just a little bit. It will be the perfect amount. And also, I'm here to serve the listener and now the viewer, since we have gone on video.
Yes.
I want to serve the listener and the viewer in ways of giving them permission to live their boldest and bravest life, whatever that looks like for them. I want to hold space for that. So thanks for being here.
Beautiful. Yes, thank you for being here. And I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction so that our audience knows who this beautiful human is sharing the space with us today. Okay, with over a decade of experience in coaching, Alyssa combines her extensive knowledge of leadership development, performance psychology, and personal growth strategies to empower her clients to excel in their respective domains. She possesses a remarkable ability to connect with individuals, build trust, and create a safe space for exploration and growth. So that is a bio that is beautiful, and we can totally expand off of that. And my first question to get this party started and have fun is, Alyssa, tell us, how did you get into executive coaching? What was that for you?
Yes. So for me, it was when a colleague who was also a coach at the time asked me how work was going. And I said it was good. And he asked if it was my dream job. And I was like, no. And he said, well, what is? And I thought, I really can't answer this question. And gosh, I would like to be able to know what my dream job is, because that seems like something you would want to know. So that started us on a journey of working together. And as I looked back on the things that I had done in my career and what I really liked doing and where I excelled and how coaching was impacting my life, that took me on the journey of, oh, I want to do this with other people. And so now I've been like officially coaching for, I would say, about 5 years, 6 years. I lose track of time with COVID. So I keep track, but I really love it. And sometimes people don't have any space where they can have their dreams and talk about things. And so I really love being able to provide that for people, because oftentimes, we talk to the folks in our world and they're telling us, you can't do that. I don't know if that's a good idea, because they're putting their own fears or concerns on us. And so we don't really have this place where we can just say, this is my dream and I want to go after it. Well, and if we're talking about permission, like have the permission to go after the thing that you want to do without people telling you, I don't know if that's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, Alyssa. Thank you for bringing that up. But how much power we give other people and other people's opinions, that is just, it can be, Meredith, help me with the word paralyzing.
Yes.
It can be really paralyzing.
It
And how can we get beyond that? How can we get beyond the tribal mentality of what's best for us?
I think it depends. One is, like, sometimes I'll say to myself, is that person paying my bills? They're probably not. So let's keep going. And I know that's sort of a cliche idea, but I do remind myself of that. It's getting over the judgments of, well, what will people think if I post that on social media? Which even as I've shifted branding and done things, I've posted a lot under a corporate umbrella. So now that I'm on my own coaching, I just put it out there. And I go, oh, I hope that's okay. So it's
Mm.
being concerned with what other people will think. And then it's the close people in our lives who we know intrinsically are only saying those things because they want to protect us, but they want to protect us based on their knowledge and their understanding and their comfortability. And so we have to also have a really strong vision for ourselves to say, that doesn't really line up. So I am going to keep going, even if other people don't understand.
Mm.
Yeah. And something I quickly learned in I was an actor prior to, and I still dabble in it, of course, but what I learned pretty quickly in that industry, for example, is that everyone has an opinion and everyone's opinion is different than the last person's opinion about what you should be doing. So the best thing that we can do, and it sounds like you do an incredible job of this, is to give people permission to tap into their own intuition.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And, I have in my life trusted people. So it's also about who am I letting in? Like one of the things I do with my clients is a social circle assessment, which sounds kind of funny. And it's very much outside of the whole mindset piece that we're working on. But it's like, who are you sharing with? Who are you talking to? And you want the differing opinions at times because that's wisdom and you want to understand the different areas. But it's also knowing who can I trust?
Mm-hmm.
Just to talk to about this, who they're going to give me all the areas they're not putting their own stuff on me. And then what do I know is right for me? And that's how I'm going to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. Beautiful.
I get curious, Alyssa, about the idea of self-esteem and how it's related to giving ourselves permission, because I'm rough drafting this, but certainly I believe that, when we're giving other people power or their opinions matter more, or like you talked about putting things on social media, and is that okay? The higher our self-esteem and the more grounded our self-esteem, the more we can trust ourselves. And I'm wondering if that comes up in your executive coaching with your clients.
Oh, it definitely does. It definitely does. Because that's where like you're saying, you have that shift of I'm relying on myself. I'm trusting myself. I believe in myself enough to not worry about that, not worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, as a coach, I remember, okay, if I think this is helpful, or if I found this helpful to me and I share it, there's probably someone else it's helpful for. And that's my job, is to share things that I think will be helpful. And certain things might land with different people at different times, but whatever it is, it's okay. As long as we're sharing, for me, from a place of it being helpful or being in love, because I want other people to break free from the same things that I've been able to break free from and not feel like they're stuck.
Yeah. Wonderful. So it's that it's really about listening. It's listening to what is around you, what's been serving you, and then gifting it. I know that there's so many people that are like, I learned this thing, and then they hold tight to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. And so it's to be able to give without expectation of receiving anything back. And also it grows our community and it grows the confidence within our community too, which is really beautiful. And it sounds like you're doing. So tell me a little bit more about, you had mentioned circles. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Social circle assessment.
Yeah.
Social circle assessment. Yeah. So who in your life is supporting you in your dreams, in your goals? Like for me, I have a wonderful circle of colleagues who, even if I'm struggling, they're like, you got this. What have you been doing? Like they help me see the things. Because I know for me, as a type A person, if I am trying to get from 1 to 10, the only thing I care about is, am I at 10 or not? And if I'm not, it's a problem. But they're like, but you hit 5 and you hit 6 and you hit 7. So they help me remember those things. So it's the people who are supporting me along the way, or understanding the people who maybe you only share certain aspects of what you're doing with, because their own stuff, they almost can't control putting it on you. And you're like, you're really not helping me get to my vision. You might even be hindering me or adding fear or discomfort that is on top of already what I'm dealing with for myself. So let's look at how we're allowing people to speak into our lives.
Beautiful. I love that. We had a guest on here I would say last year, Teresa Funk, who wrote a book about bursts of brilliance. And she talks about that too as an artist, which is, who do you go to for the feedback, and when is it the right time to go for that particular person for the particular kind of feedback that you're looking for? And so I think that just for our listeners and those who are watching right now, that it's important to pull back a little bit and just really notice what you feel when someone in your life gives you some feedback or information and you start wanting to do, I'm doing this because I need to move it through my body. Like if you're feeling it and you're like, whoo, I don't know, that didn't land well, that's a sign.
Yes. Well, and I'm laughing too because we were talking about fun earlier being
Yeah.
like fun. It's like another F word. So is feedback
Yeah.
because we think that when we get feedback, we have to take it on
Oh, yeah,
and we don't. So you can
Mhm.
really take the feedback and say, okay, is there anything in this that's true? Is there anything in this that will help me on my journey? Or is this just completely off from what my vision is and how I'm trying to live life? And does it serve me? And some parts of it may, all of it may, none of it may, but it's okay to actually look at it and dissect it and say, thank you, and not do anything with it. Right. And there's a learning process there. And that goes back to what you mentioned earlier with self-esteem, which is I have enough faith in myself and my vision that I can take it or leave it. And it's okay. And it doesn't impact me personally. It's just an idea that's come my way and I may or may not receive it.
Yeah, I think that's important to really create those boundaries for yourselves because feedback can actually shake confidence if you're not in the right place to receive it. Someone had mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember where I listened, it was a talk or something, but she said a really great question, if you're the person giving the feedback, to ask the person who's on the receiving end is, what have you tried so far? And then that person has the space to share, oh, I've tried this and I've tried this and I've tried this, so that perhaps you're not giving unsolicited feedback that actually is something that that person's already tried, which I thought was a really beautiful leading question.
It's
I love
lovely.
it. And we have a comment from one of our viewers, from our friend Lisa David Olson. Hello. And she says, feedback matters. Our internal thoughts can be so limiting. And Andrea says, oh, this is good. A lot of things resonate with her. So thank you for being here, Andrea. And then on the flip side of that, Alyssa, I'm wondering, maybe sometimes we are waiting for permission and asking other people for their feedback because, like, do we need to do that? Is it important to go out and get feedback? I know what Lisa's answer is, but sometimes we get paralyzed. I'm using that word again. And it's like, oh, I have to ask 3 to 30 different people what they think before I can make a move. And that can be so confusing. As Meredith was saying, everybody's going to have a different opinion. And when do we get to sit down with ourselves, with our journal, with our meditation, our reflection, our intuition, and say, the whole of the world thinks this is ridiculous, and I'm still going to go for it?
Yeah, I have definitely had feedback overload as an entrepreneur because there are so many different opinions and so many ways to go. So this is where you really have your trusted people who you say, who am I really going to talk to? Who do I know who's an expert in that, and get their conversation. And then I'm also a big gut person. Like, I get my feedback and I kind of cycle through it. And I say, okay, these 10 people have all said the same thing, so it's probably good. This person had a different opinion, so I'm going to take from it the value there because it is good to look at both sides. And then I'm going to process all of that together and move forward with the decision. It's when we continually get the feedback and don't ever take action that we can really get paralyzed, because it's easier to move when you're moving versus just gathering information in infinity and never taking action. Then that's really when you're stuck and it's super overwhelming, at least for me.
You cannot steer a parked car,
You
as Deborah
cannot.
Poneman would say.
You can't steer a parked car.
It's true. But if
It
you're going straight and you're like, you know what, I need to make a U-turn, I need to make a left turn, I need to pivot here, much easier to do. And sometimes you don't actually know what's good or bad info until you've actually put it into play. Like when I first started my business, I purchased something and I was like, ooh, I spent a lot of money on that and I didn't need that yet. So lesson learned, and I didn't renew it the next year. You know, sometimes you just kind of take it and you go, how do I use this to make a better decision the next time?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I think that's a lot of entrepreneurship. I think that's like the majority of it.
Why do they do that?
You know, like I have a rule for myself that I'll put something into action. I'll let it live for about 2 or 3 months. And if it's not moving and grooving in the direction I need it to go in, then then I reassess and I pivot and I take a different approach. But I think like, yeah, there's a lot of money spent on those some of those decisions.
Shiny objects.
Right. Just to
Yes,
go, not
same.
working.
Alyssa, can you speak to the idea of taking action
Mhm.
versus busyness? Because sometimes we confuse those two
Oh,
things.
yes.
We have these dreams and
Mhm.
I'm pointing to myself here because I've done this, and we do a lot of busy work, but it's not necessarily action in the direction of that 10 that you spoke of earlier. I
Mhm.
want to get to a 10.
Yes. For
How do we
me,
know
it's
the difference?
really, oh, I love it. So this is why always having a clear vision is important, because that's your lighthouse, that's your North Star, that's where we're always going back to. So for me, let's say I say between now and the end of the year, I want to sign 5 new clients on my new program. That's my goal. Then I say, okay, what actions am I taking today that are actually moving me towards that? Is it a networking event? Is it asking for referrals? Whatever that might be, posting about it on social. And then if 3 people ask me, hey, do you want to do this, that, or the other? I can look at it against my vision and say, no, that's really not serving the vision. So I'm going to say no to that, because I've definitely have weeks where I've looked at my calendar and gone, why is my calendar stacked morning to afternoon? What are all these things? And I have to look at them and say, are there things I want to remove or cancel or just move that aren't actually moving me towards this action I'm taking right now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, look at her being here on our podcast. We didn't get removed, Meredith. I'm
We
thinking
didn't. We made it.
that's
We made
like a
the
little
cut.
we made the cut.
I
That's
love
like
it.
a little feather in our cap, right? Thank you.
Yeah. Alyssa, thank you.
Yes, these are things I look forward to. I want to do these kinds of things. I love talking about coaching, so any opportunity to do that is a joy for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm loving the wisdom so far. I am curious. I have a question. What is there a moment that you can think about, a singular moment in your life where you have given yourself permission?
Oh, yes, to do this, I would say,
Yeah.
because I already had a 20-year corporate career in different fields and operations and client success. So finding coaching later in life and giving myself permission to pursue it as a path, to leave a job to pursue this instead, that was a big one for me, because owning your own business, as you know, as all the entrepreneurs know, and as the actors and creatives know, it's different than having that steady salary. So it comes with different challenges and things that you're like, ooh, this, I'm a little nervous to do this, and like, or like this morning, I might not be sure how I'm going to pay that bill or do certain things, but because the vision is strong enough and because I love coaching and want to serve people this way, you kind of put that aside for me. And I said, okay, and I'm going to keep going here because I can't not offer this to people. So for me, it was giving myself permission to make a pivot. I would say like later in life, right? It's different when you're in your 20s and you're like, I'll try this and I'll try that. And that's great, and explore. But after a while, sort of conventional wisdom would tell you, you just keep going until you hit your point, make your money and move on. And I was like, oh, I sort of feel like my soul is getting sucked out right now. I can't keep doing that. So
Yeah.
it was following for me what was true.
Beautiful. So was that hard? Was it scary?
I would say more scary than hard, but it is challenging to step it out every day. And I, like you said, I've been learning something different pretty much every day for the last year, especially because 2 years ago, I basically said, I can't do this corporate role anymore. I'm shifting into coaching. And I was invited to stay on with that company and do coaching, which was awesome. I loved it. The company was great. And then in January, I stepped out on my own to solely focus on coaching. And it's I think my biggest learning was there's a big difference between having a skill that you really enjoy doing and running a business and making money with that skill. So this year for me has been a big exploration in running a business and being an entrepreneur partnered with being a coach, because they're two very different things, as you know.
Whew, they
Absolutely.
are. And it's okay, right?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
okay. And there's going to be a different learning curve with the
Correct.
entrepreneurial piece of
Yeah.
it and being a business person. Because what I'm hearing is that you're so passionate about it. You're like, this is it. Like I am all in, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You're all in. And there are going to be, we've mentioned this already, there are going to be mistakes. And this is for our listeners and those who are watching right now, which is don't give up.
That's right.
Like, just don't give up, because you might have a really hard quarter. You might have a really hard year, but don't give up if it's truly what you want to do, and just keep going out there and being a sponge.
Yes.
Agreed.
And we have some comments from our thread, Meredith, from Jean,
Hello,
from your
Jean.
confidently speaking community, says saying no is critical to implementation.
Whew.
Yes. And Andrea says, you speak from my heart, Alyssa.
Thank you.
Andrea, it's good to see her too.
Yes.
Oh,
No,
fantastic.
I love that comment on saying no. We are not practiced in saying no. And this idea that your yes actually means more when you're saying no a lot is so true, because then you're really saying yes to the things that are important and moving you forward. And it's okay to say no. Sometimes I have clients who actually have to practice that because they're so nervous about saying no and what people will think. And usually it's this whole story in our head. And then you say no, and the person's like, okay, I'll get you next time. Like, it's super simple. But balancing the yes and the no is crucial, because going back to what Joseph asked earlier, when you are trying to take action on something, the amount of things that will try to take your attention actually increases. It's like it's purposefully trying to distract you.
The universe is going like that.
It's all, are you really serious? Are you really?
It's trying to test us.
It is. So that saying no in that is so big, to go, no, this really isn't in alignment.
I have a question around that. This is it. So yes, and to saying no. And so let's speak into when things are slow and there's nothing really to say yes or no to. You're taking action, and what's happening is you're planting seeds.
Yes.
So you are planting seeds, and then all of a sudden, because the universe works this way, all those seeds start to grow at the exact same time.
Yes.
And then you're looking back at it and you're like, I thought I was saying no to stuff. So what do you do with that? Like, how do you prepare yourself and your clients when it comes to that? Is that something that ever comes up in conversation?
It does. Even for me, like I coach private clients, of course, and then I have a few companies that I am a contract coach with. And there are weeks where I'm like, people are out of town, nobody's coaching right now. And then the following 2 weeks, I'm like, I'm coaching 10 people in 2 days, and that's a lot of coaching. So I try to spread it out. But you kind of just I go with the ebb and flow of it. And then I move things when I have to. And sometimes for me, it's just a little bit about flexibility. Like, if that person wants to coach at 7:00 at night, that random Tuesday, I'll do it that week, because I'm here to serve. But for me, a lot of it is just really considering the things like, okay, if 5 people this week all of a sudden want it, I can also have boundaries around that. I can say, hey, I haven't heard from you in a month, so I can't do this week, but I can do next week, and let's get you early in the week and let's keep it moving. So it's also maintaining your own boundaries around what's going to work or not work, because when you've been planting the seed, you don't really want to say no. So you just look at, okay, how can I say yes well, so that I'm still taking care of myself. And if I'm not taking care of myself, I'm also not serving clients well. So there's a balance there too.
Amazing. I love that. I love the word well. Say yes. Well. I'm going to put a comma in there. Well, exclamation mark.
Yes.
And to stay with the analogy of the seed, that takes a long time, right? Seeds take a long time to germinate and begin to sprout. And our yeses or our nos don't have to happen automatically or as a knee jerk, right?
Yes.
We can always say, let me get back to you. I need to think about that. Let me check my schedule. Let me check in with my family. Let me check in with what else is going on in my life. I think that going back to self-esteem and going back to the idea of yes and no, our knee-jerk reaction tends to be like, I want these people to like me, so I'm going to say yes to everything, right? Step back, right? Pick up the journal. Meredith and I have talked on countless podcasts about the importance of picking up the pen in your journal and moving through things that way. What does your heart say? Can you say a yes, comma, well, exclamation point?
Well, and you are speaking to anybody who has ever struggled with, is recovering from people pleasing. completely when you're saying that. It's waiting 24 hours before you give the yes. Does this actually fit in my schedule? Is this something I actually want to do? Because there are times where we're saying yes because even if we don't necessarily want to do it, because how do I say that well? Like, I thought I was going to spend the day on a couch, but a friend's got a flat tire. Obviously, I'm going to say yes and come help you, right? Like, that's maybe not what I wanted to do that day, but I care about helping my friend. But there are also times where you go, I'm going to think about that. I don't really know if I can say yes to that without negatively impacting my life, because now I'm cramming things together, or I'm already exhausted or not feeling well. So it's really taking the time to think about it. And I love what you said, Joseph, like, is this in my heart to say yes truly? And is it based on my decision to say yes, not I'm afraid of what the other person will think if I don't say yes?
Yeah. I mean, checking in with yourself, I think, is the big one. I know that most of the time when I have said yes to things, and I can feel like that I wasn't really 100% on board. Like, you can just feel it.
You can tell.
You can just feel it. And it doesn't help out the person who asked you either. It's like they're getting kind of a half-assed version of the version that they could have gotten, you know?
Right? And you're not being your authentic self, which puts you out of alignment. So you're like, I said yes to that thing, but now I'm cranking about going. It's probably because you didn't really want to say yes,
Yeah.
but you didn't give yourself the time to think about it.
Yeah.
And well, you don't want to go cranky.
You don't want to go cranky. That's another quote. I'm such an extrovert and type A personality that if I did say yes to something and I end up going, I usually have a pretty freaking good time. Like,
That's
I'm
right.
like, oh, I'm really
Yeah.
glad that I went to that thing because I
Mhm.
talked to that person, or I saw that piece of art, or I got exposed to that piece of theater.
Yeah.
I'm usually pretty happy that I did. Alyssa, can you please, as we wrap up, can you please share one micro action step that our listeners or our viewers could take
Mhm.
in the direction of them moving towards their dreams? What would you share?
Yes, I think it's being very crystal clear on your vision. So take out words like, I want to do this more, I want to do that better. What does that look like for you? Get super crystal clear on it. And don't be afraid of the vision, because having it actually directs your steps. Oftentimes we stay vague because it's less scary when we don't do it. But if you can get specific, it makes it easier to take direct action towards moving yourself forward. So for me, that's what I would say. And if you're thinking about doing something and in your mind you're like, oh, I couldn't because I don't know what they'll think or what they'll say, it's probably going to be fine. Do it anyway.
Wow.
I love it. And where can people find you? Tell us.
Yes, you can visit my website, or you can visit me on LinkedIn.
Okay, fantastic. And we will make sure that we leave those in the comments, and also they'll be on the show notes when we release this episode as a
Thank you so much.
podcast. Yeah.
Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you.
Love it. You two are delightful. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
You as well. Thank you for all your wisdom today.
We appreciate you. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for being here,
Thanks.
listeners.
Bye.